Brother Red Pill representing Know the Ledge, one half of the Twin Pillars. I am here rocking with Crumb TV.
You are watching Crumb TV.
You can find me on Crumb TV.
You can catch me on Crumb TV.
This is Chief Kalanago here at Crumb TV.
I am Joy Allen of the Memoirs of a Karmic Dynasty in the Crumb TV studio.
Honored to be on your program, brother.
Peace.
Peace.
Crumb TV.
Well, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to State of the Nationals on Crumb TV. I am Tamara L., along with Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey and Shem Malachi Bey. Now, we are members of a political organization styled Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus, formed in June of 2019. Now, the mission of Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus is to help to facilitate the various Moorish body politics into one central governance for the reversion of sovereignty of the Moorish imperial divan. Now, please don't clutch your pearls and don't disconnect, as tonight we will dive deep into the importance of activating your nationality. Now, before we get into it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channels, as well as continue to show love to Crumb TV. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey and Shem Malachi Bey. But what I would like to do is show you where you can subscribe, support, and share. You can contact, subscribe, and support us on Facebook at United Republic of Morocco, Academy of Providence on Facebook, Moroccan Post, as well as myself, Tamara Il, Abdullah Bey on Facebook. We also have our educational facility, academyofprovidence.org. You can purchase books, various books at mooresandmasonry.org, as well as you can subscribe on YouTube to Moroccan Post News, United Republic of Morocco, as well as Crumb TV. Please continue to support as we continue to build this network at Cash App at Tamara D. EL, as well as Crumb TV. Now you can also follow us. You can go to our website at unitedrepublicaofmorocco.com. So that's where you can contact, subscribe, and support. I'm going to go ahead and bring on Abdullah and Shem so they can go ahead and introduce themselves. All right.
Peace,
Good evening,
everyone.
Abdullah and Shem.
Good evening.
Yes. It's on.
All right. Are you ready for this evening? You want to introduce yourselves to our audience, our listening audience?
Yes, I'm Shem Malachi Bey. I'm a member of the Imperial Restoration Caucus. Also, I'm an instructor of the Academy of Providence. Working with Abdullah and Noble Tamara L. And we've been working on getting the people together to understand the inherent right and the powers and the inherent right and powers vested in them. And from there, they form a community of houses forming a community. Then they come together among themselves in autonomy power, and they invest the delegation authority, men and women, to hold office, public office, under social trust constitution, and regulate commerce and independent government, independent commerce and economics among themselves.
All right, I'm Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey. I am author of several books: Moors and Masonry, Masonic Copies of Square, and Amount Vocabulary, How Moon and Moonish Rules, Illuminati and Illumination of the Mind, and I have Moors and Masonry Part 2 coming your way soon. Moors and Masonry Part 2. Yes, I am also a professor at the Academy of Providence, and also co-founder. It is an honor to be with and on this platform. I want to give a shout out, a great salute, tip my fez to Brother Crumb for allowing us to have this State of the Nationals on his platform. Really appreciate you, Crumb. It was definitely an honor to be able to, finally speak to you in November of last year, and Tamara Eo actually told me about you in Crumb in 2018. And she had been watching him quite often. So it's a great honor to finally have met Crumb in January, and a great salute to the brother.
All right. Now, this is going to be a whirlwind topic this evening, and it's right on time considering what you're dealing with today's conflict. Now, keep in mind, now, in order to understand these current events, one must understand the past events. Now, what I'm going to read, I'm gonna first get started off before we start with the PowerPoint because we're gonna have to set this thing up a little bit. I want to read some information from. It's called the Negro Question, and this book is from Lee Cummins. Now, I would like to read chapter 13, and then I'm gonna go into chapter 12. Just a couple of excerpts. Now, say chapter 13, the European secret. What is this great secret that the Europeans possesses that has been omitted from their history books, and that would revolutionize the way the world perceives the so-called Negro? What if I told you that the so-called Negro were the first kings of Europe? The Roman Empire had the distinction of being a multiracial empire. Okay. Now, let me go over to chapter 12. And let me see what we're dealing with. Okay, I got a little echo here, feedback. Let me try to fix that. All right. I guess that's not working. So we're going to keep going. Now, chapter 12. The title reads The White Jewish Question, but we're not going to utilize the word white and black in the educational. And Brother Abdullah is going to explain that a little bit further. So I'm going to use the word the Albion Jewish question. Now it reads, what about the Albion Jew in Jerusalem? Where is his proof of origination? Where are his artifacts, and what exactly did he present to the United Nations in 1948 that they gave him a charter for nationhood and the land of our fathers? Now, the king of the Khazars traces his lineage not through Shem, but through Josaphat, the son of Noah. A letter is written from the King Joseph of the Khazars in which he details his people's lineage. And he writes down the names of the offspring. Now I'm going to fast forward over because I want to get into this. Now the Khazars were a Turkish kingdom that was situated between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. The Khazarian settlement is mentioned in the Crimea. Now the Ukraine, Hungary, Poland, and Lithuania, and these settlements migrated into Russian Poland. All right, that's what it is. Now, based on historical correspondence between the Muslim Caliphites and the king of the Khazarians, it has come to light that the Khazarians chose Judaism over Islam and Christianity so as not to subvert to the Pope or the Khalifa. Historically, the people of Khazaria were a Turkish-Finnish people that originated in Asia that entered Europe by land route north of the Caspian Sea. It has been recorded that they settled in Eastern Europe and established the Khazar kingdom. The Khazar king Josaphat chose Judaism as the state religion. The Khazar kingdom collected tribute from the last 25 nations that it conquered, and from these nations, the Khazar king reportedly by force and consent marriage of their daughters, so he had at least 25 wives. Now I'm going to go fast forward back over here too. Now, it say, upon being defeated by the Russians, the Khazar people became incorporated into the rising Russian Empire. Note, a large part of the Khazar Jews were concentrated in Hungary, Crimea, Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, Galicia, Romania, and other states who in turn were conquered and incorporated into the Russian Empire. Now, why did I read that to you? Because in order to understand this national principle, you must understand where everyone is derived from. In order to understand this conflict, you have to understand the nativity, the lineage of the people that are in conflict. So, Shem Abdullah, would you like to add any additional knowledge, body of knowledge to what I've just read?
Sure.
Yes. When our ancestors view the world, when our ancestors, we're talking about Mesopotamia, talking about Phoenicia. Now, Mesopotamia, you got Babylon, and you got Persia. Now, these are the ancient nations. Now, let's talk about when the world was Babylon, before the great mudslide and the shifting of the earth mass. The civilization first, according to biblical record, came from the area now called Florida, Peru, Mexico, Brazil. According to the study of the hieroglyphs and language and the agricultural rulings that was found, is dated older than any ruins in the world. So that is called geological evidence. See, we have to show the evidence to prove it. Now, what happened? It shift during the shift of the continents. That civilization moved to the area now is called Phoenicia, way up in the mountains, way Phoenicia. Now, that's the record of our ancestors. So every time we look at a survey map or engineer map drawn by the conquest powers, is only to hide from us, the Moors, to reach our longitude, latitude, getting back to our motherland. This starts from looking at lineage, and we look at consanguinity, birthright. Now, birthright is in the mother. If you go back and read the scriptures, the king, even if he married a woman from a foreign nation, no one could give up the estate to a foreign child that's not born of the woman of that nation. Even though the man lineage, that's the seed. Now look at the sun and the moon. Look at the plants that come out the earth, the things that come out of earth, that's the lineage. But the mother's the earth. So you can't say none of this will exist unless you have a marriage ceremony between the sun, the moon, and the earth. So it's just like with a woman. She's the feminine. So you can't say that a birthright is in a man. It's not. It's in a woman because she's the earth. What do you mean, Shem? In her is what? Water and blood. That's in the woman. Earth. Water and blood and oxygen is in the woman. Fire. The masculine, the feminine. The masculine, oxygen, fire. The feminine, earth and water, which goes into fire. So that's the principle of forming all things is in the earth, is in the woman. So we've been misled in the conquest maps. We've been misled by the professors who claim the learning for philosophies of the ancient world. But when they reflect in evidence, works, we're not getting this in school. We're not being educated. So what good is it to us if we're not having control of our own schools, having the government up so we can protect and take these maps and put these first in time for law and culture. So that's what we have to do. Go ahead, Bill. Get after that.
That's good.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into activate your nationality. Now, as we move forward into activate your nationality, let's continue to understand the next area in which we look at here. As it is written in Luke 21:2, then said be unto them, nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Now, what we would like to do is go into the etymology of nation, kingdom, and empire. Now, we're going to take our time setting this up so people can have a clear understanding of, like I said, the conflicts of yesterday that are currently being played out today. And as people who are in occupation, a state of occupation and oppression, we have to understand who we are as well in order to begin to a state of liberation. So, Abdullah, let's go into the understanding of nation, kingdom, and empire.
Now I'm going to give you let's look at the etymology of nation. That's a Latin form, which is actually coming from the Greek. Now, and the reason I'm going to Greek is that gives a stronger foundational meaning than that of the Latin. Now, in the Latin, it's natio, which means to be born, and not that's natio, and not nasci to come into existence. Now, in Greek, it's gen, as in generation, genesis, gender. And so in the Greek, you have a clearer understanding than you would in the Latin. Source, origin. So we're looking at the source from which one comes. That is a understanding of it in Greek. This is why I'm going to the Greek. So it's been transliterated, Genesis, the gen, into the Latin, na, and then in English it's kin, as in gen, Latin, nat, no, gen Greek, nat, Latin, and you have the kin, which is kinfolks, kindred, kindergarten. That is modern English form. So now we have king, and king and queen have the same root, and it means to join. So the king means to join. So there is a blood connection there. So in down in the political realm, nation and kingdom. Well, with a nation, that is a people who's binded by culture, by customs, by principles, and by consanguinity. Nation, which is not the same as state. I know we know state's not there, but it's very clear this opportunity. All right, we have nation, state, country. Most people, because they don't have the knowledge of etymology and true world politics, interchange the words nation, state, and country as though they have the same meaning. Absolutely not. Big mistake. Country refers to land. Nation, once again, that is a people binded by customs, consanguinity, and culture. A state is an international person. Now you would have a nation that's not a state. So you have so state is an international person, but the state, that is a modern construct coming from the Peace of Westphalia. The Peace of Westphalia of 1648 that ended the 30-year war. The 30-year war among several European powers from 1618 to 1644 is actually convened in 1644 and made for 4 years. It took 4 years to construct the Peace of Westphalia, Westphali. The modern construct and a lot of the principles of international law based in the construction are based and tied to the Peace of Westphalia, where the concept of new states since the 1920s, there's been over about 150 new states continuing this concept. Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Cuba, El Salvador, Dominica, Argentina,
Pakistan.
They'll deal with the nation states in Central and South America. That's Spain. They're still under Spanish authority.
Yes.
how do you say, Abdullah? They broke away from Spain. No, they did not. I'm challenging that. They did not rise with their Moorish consanguinity. You cannot claim that they broke away from Spain when they did not ride and construct in their constitution and also their name Moor. They say they're claiming that they're Colombians, Mexicans, El Salvadorians, Nicaraguans. Though they do have in a coat of arms, there's 13 of those nation states that have in their coat of arms the symbology represent tying their pedigree to Moor. They have the Moorish fez in the pyramid, but in the name of the country, the name of the new state, Nicaraguan is not Moor. Claim in a constitution, we the people of the descendants of Moors. None of them claim in their constitution that they are descendants of Moors. The only way you can break away from Spain is you have to claim your consanguinity. They've never claimed their mother. That's a new state, but they make the birthright inherited claim. They can only claim like they're claiming to be Moors. They've never done that. That's what I'm saying. They're still under Spain. The president of Philippines, he had 3 women behind him. Go YouTube it. Durante. He said that they're mortals, and that Philippines is the name of their conqueror, King Philip. In 1560. Philip II of Spain put the Moors under Spanish subjugation and classified the Moors as Spaniards. We have to tie this to this. They are Moors. They're not Nicaraguans, Costa Ricans. So you rise with the knowledge of your Moorish ancestry. All right, Shem going to kingdom.
Yes. Let's go back to ancestor culture. You have a woman. You have to start from a woman now. We have to start from a woman. A woman have 8 sons. She may have 3 daughters. All of them are considered independent nations. They come together and form one nation. And what happens is they elect a king. Ancient time, the tribes got together and picked the strongest of the house to be the king. Or the prophet would take responsibility, or the prophetess, and prophesy, foretell who's going to be the ruler, or empress or queen over the nation. A kingdom is a host of nations together, working together. An empire is under one monarchy that has took and captured almost all the kingdoms and nations on the earth. That's the difference between an emperor or empress. They are a monarchy that extend their from their political dominion over a host of dominions of nations, and they come under their wing. Like, I'm gonna give you an example. The Soviet Union is a kingdom. It's not an empire. It's a kingdom. The Soviet Union means that all these European political jurisdictions in Phoenicia states was under the power of the Soviet Union. No different than the Roman Empire. When they went and conquered Moab, Israel, and all these nations, it made Rome, because Rome conquered these most powerful nations of the earth, it made Rome into an empire. It just not was conquering kingdoms, it also conquered nations. So when we see the word emperor, that's dealing with an empire. When you say king and queen, you're dealing with a kingdom. When you say nation, you're dealing with like a host of tribes, which are nations, coming together with chiefs, clan mothers, come together and form one national nation. So that's ancient. You have to look back and see how this is done. Now Egypt was a kingdom. because Egypt had power over a lot of things, but Egypt was never an empire. I mean, Egypt was never to extend their political jurisdiction in order to call yourself an empire, that means you have to extend your political jurisdiction over the most dominant kingdoms on the earth. If you don't have if you haven't took your political dominion and have established over the kingdoms of the earth, you're not an empire. That's why Morocco was called an empire, because Morocco, through Prophet Muhammad, under the document of Muhammadanism, have extended its powers over kingdoms over the earth and subdued them. Therefore, you got a sultan, because the sultan is in the successor of the seer.
Okay.
Therefore, he sits as the monarchy over the kingdoms.
Is there any way that you guys can mute your mic and unmute it?
You talking about us?
Yes, I'm getting the static and the feedback, but it's obviously it has a lot of interruption in the line with a lot of others.
What about now?
No, it's still acting. But that happens a lot of times when when we have these shows, that happens a lot. And hopefully people will bear with us. And let's look at the host of Slavic nations. Let's look at the host of Slavic nations that were established. Now, if we look here, we'll look at the establishment of the Dane law. I'm at the mute your mic.
Hear it now.
Yes, I still hear it. That's why I'm in your mic.
All right.
Now let's look at the host of Slavic nations and the areas, the territory in which they start colonizing. Now, the establishment of the Dane law. This is the Danish. This is the Danish Norse that was Northmen that came out of Northern Europe, and the death of Eric Blood Axe, the Viking of the King of Northumbria, in 954 signaled the withdrawal of Viking forces and a cessation of violence for 25 years. Now, however, in 980, the raiders returned. That's what they called when they were going to the different areas and colonize. They would call it a raiding. They returned and began a new onslaught of ports and towns. That was to take over the different areas that they wanted to take control of their resources, their merchandise, the territory for commerce and things of that nature. Now, when they came back and settled, the I'm going to say native Europeans, because I'm not going to say autochthonous Europeans, because there's a distinction. There's a distinction between the autochthonous Europeans that were the original inhabitants of Europa, and then you have the ones who came in and settled in the area, the Albions, the Slavics that settled in the area, which were called the native. They became more like the native Europeans of the area. Now, there came a battle that took place. It's a massacre that took place here. And this massacre occurred almost 1,020 years ago on November the 13th. Now, this occurred when King Ethelred of England, after suffering years of Viking incursion, commanded that all Danes in his kingdom were to be killed. Now, the king ordered all the Danish men who were among the English race to be killed on Bryce Day. Now, because it was made known to the king that they wanted to ensure his life, and afterwards all of his consulars and all of his kingdoms afterwards. Now, as you can see, this is a battle that occurred when the king felt that they wanted to exterminate all the Norse Danes that had been settling in the region during that 25 years of peace. And after that 25 years of peace, they wanted a genocide. They wanted to genocide and exterminate the people that came from the Northmen and the Vikings that came and settled there and that had peace, because they had what you call a Danes law. Now let's look here even further. And this is how it goes into the Vikings goes into settle into the areas what you know today of the conflict occurring. Now, the historical people known as Vikings, who hailed from Scandinavian in Northern Europe were well known today for their exploits in the West. And they called them now there's a book called The Scandinavian Raiders of Four Continents. And that book is called Northmen, the Viking Saga, AD 793 to 1241. But the merchant warriors also made their way into Eastern Europe, where they helped found a medieval federation in a territory now known as Belarus, Ukraine, and a port of Russia. Now, Russia is a more modern name. The Russia is derived from the word Rus, which means oarmen. They were seafaring people, just as the Moors are seafaring people as well. So Russia, the word Russia is derived from Rus, the people of the Rus. Now their loose federation of principalities called Kievan Rus, they survived for nearly 400 years, finally collapsing during the 13th century when the Mongol invasion. Now, and the reason we bring this up, we're still dealing with the etymology and the baseline of nativity. Now we're going to go into understanding how um, the words transformed from Sanskrit and Russian to our from ancient kinship, to show how even the words are derived from ancient Sanskrit and Russia to current modern English, and how there's still a connection and the understanding of and the connection within the area. So I'm gonna let Brother Abdullah, he's well versed in this area. So I'm gonna let him come forward and speak on this topic. All right. All right. All right,
Yes.
Abdullah.
Let's look at the word Russian. The IAN is the suffix. That is not part of the root or main part of the word. RUS is the etymology, and now the other S when adding another letter. So Rus, because it's RUS. So the an additional S was added. So with the IAN is the suffix of the word. Now you're looking at the Sanskrit and Russian. Now Sanskrit, now you have what's called the Indo-European languages. Indo coming from the word Sindhu to Hindu, which is the Arabicization of Sindhu. Now Hindu, where the H was reconstructing the word into Hindu. Now Sanskrit and Russian, you see the ancient kinship tie there, and you see the words on the screen. It's a very good presentation here to give the people a foundational understanding of the consanguinity, pedigree, and ancestry of the people, and make it very clear that these people are actually the same people, and only separated by political divisions, but not by consanguinity. There's no consanguinity separation. So when you talk, so that's political, that's official, because the consanguinity is the real. That's real. If any political differences, that's still artificial, because the consanguinity is not going to change, or that they're the same people.
So political means legal.
But it's not. But it doesn't supersede the consanguinity.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't change that the people are still one people.
It's beautiful.
All right. Want me to, Tamara?
I'm sorry. I just have to keep the mics muted. You guys muted when I speak, just to try to keep some type of interference out. Now, this is what happens when your language is taken. This is what happened. This is the effect of what occurs when your culture, your language, your understanding of history, not understanding how the current events are in direct parallel to past events that occurred. This is what happened. Now you see here, forgetting your national identity, you would start to choose your usurper to come and take you, to shelter you, become a refugee, to become a prisoner in someone else's jurisdiction. So the sign that the young lady hold up, she distinctively um, colored in the sigil colors of Ukraine, the blue and yellow, choose Europe and not Russia. They are one, they're one and the same nationality. But here we're getting into the political aspect of now saying, okay, we will choose one of the lesser evil. Now, what does this also occur at? Or where did this type of mentality also occur at? Now let's get into that. This particular mentality occurs also right here in the political jurisdiction of the United States. You will have these uh, semantics of knowledge that goes out, and someone to say, you're not a Moor, or we're not Hebrews, or you're not this, or you're not that, but not looking at going into the fullness and depths, and especially going into the Akashic records within yourself and saying that we're all one in the same blood pedigree lineage. However, one of the things that we have not addressed, that we are under Slavic occupation and control. So therefore, we will continue to go to the voting box and choose a Democrat or a Republican, one of the two of the lesser evils, to be our continual oppressor in our own territory. So let's get into that a little bit more, Abdullah and Shem.
Yes. It comes down to psychological coercion, social engineering, and indoctrination, meaning that once one is born into and raised into and look up to only realize that their mother, their father, and all their people that they wrongly know and see and understand through maturity is bounding themselves, obligating themselves to allegiance, to a government, the structure. See, there's a structure there. And that is the only protector that their mother, father, and aunts, uncles, and kinsmen all around them look to. When there's a dispute between all of them, they go to the courts. When they need legal work done, they go to an esquire. When they got to go to school, they go to their system. When they got to go to a market, it's like my state. Once they're raised into that, now there's a fear factor coming now when the truth comes along, when consequentity comes along, inherit vested rights. That's the threat now, because it's right to go that direction. It's right to claim that, but who's going to protect me? See, the structure. Go back and look at the history. Everyone had a protector. That's the government. The government was your protector. The church was your protector. That's your protector. The father and mother protector of the house. That's been rooted out. You've been raised into, now you're raised into being a coward and being in fear. And not being taken away from the core of the, see, Morocco. Morocco is your mother. But just like the refugee convention say, you avail yourself to return to your country. It's in your head, your knowledge, your maturity, your mental state. Mentally, you don't want to claim that. Mentally, you don't want to say you from your ancient foremothers and forefathers' country. Mentally, I don't want to set my culture. Why? Apartheid and genocide. That's it. Go ahead, Abdullah, you can answer
that. There, we're gonna get into a little later.
You guys got a lot of static going on.
We need to come back out, go out.
Let's see if you can do that. Let's see if you can go out and come back in.
Yeah. Close out all together.
Yes, and come back in. So as we wait for Abdullah and Shem to come back in, what I'll do is I go ahead and put the information back on the slides back up, and so that way we'll see where we're going to be at in the next moment. So because I know this information is very important. It's very important that we detail the information of what we're seeing and what we're unfolding, because what is occurring here, there's going to be a situation that occur where we will lend our energy to things that do not have a basis in pertaining to the autochthonous native indigenous people of North America and throughout the world. Now, this is a Slavic conflict that has occurred for thousands of years. The Slavics have always warred against each other. Um, Different kingdoms, different houses has always warred one against each other. It has been is prophesied in biblical content that there will always be wars and rumors of wars. So as I shared before, as it dictate, it's in right here in Luke 21:10, it say, then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom will rise against kingdom. But let's look at this when we say this. Let's look at this in detail. People will lend their energy as far as prayer, finances, and things of that nature, but then would not look at the understanding, would not look at the full understanding that we ourselves have a nativity, we have a lineage, we have a pedigree in which we have yet to explore, self determine, and restore ourselves back to whom we were without a doubt of contradiction. So it's important for us to look at that in its full content. Now, let me see, guys. Can you guys talk?
All right. What about now?
Yeah, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. Now
All right.
let's get into we have some critically analysis analyzing the principles of nationality, and we're going to get into this because it's very important for just the full scope, just the roots of nationality to be understood. Because a lot of times you hear when someone may say nationality, they're addressing nationality in the consanguinity aspect, and more often not addressing nationality in the political construct, which is tied, it is definitely tied to your consanguinity, but it's the political aspect of nationality is what you see played out on a daily basis on the scene throughout all the earth. So let's get into some questions here we have here. We're going to put up now. Let's critically analyze the principles of nationality. What is nationality? What is the laws of nation? And what is the international community of nations? All right, Brother Abdul, I'm going to let you and Shem take that away.
All right. Yeah. What is nationality? Let's look at the etymology of the word. Let's look at the component parts. All right. We have the nation, nationality, natio, to be born, natio, and also nsci, to come into existence. I mentioned that it comes from in the Greek Genesis, the source. So there's a clear understanding of the Greek source. Now the al is an adjective suffix ending pertaining to. So in the concept of belonging to, the ity makes it an abstract noun, the quality or state of belonging to a nation, the quality state of belonging to a nation by birth or by source. So that's nationality. So when you say, well, I'm a Moor, all right, identify the state. Identify the state. This is what Tamara is saying, that the consanguinity aspect of nationality is taught, which is great. You know, we've been indoctrinated into falsely thinking that we're black, Negro, colored, Latino, Spanish, Puerto Rican, Indian. So of course the consanguinity understanding of nationality has to be taught and continue to push. I'm for that. But then it has to.
Let me slow you down a little bit. Let me slow you down just a little bit, because I can't hear you running over the words. I can't hear you. So can you just slow it down just a little bit?
All right. The consanguinity aspect of nationality. It is right to put that concept and understanding, because that is the foundational principle. But because we have been indoctrinated into falsely thinking that we're black, Negro, colored, Latino, Spanish, Indian, Puerto Rican, West Indian, etc. But there has to be an understand at another level dealing with protection. Someone of French will raise the Moorish flag. They raise the Moorish flag. Why? I mean, the French flag. Why? For two reasons. For and connection, as well as for protection. This nation state that protects me. So it's not just, well, I'm a French and walk around, I'm a French. I'm a French. You know, keep my French flag. Well, they're raising it because they're identifying their mother who protects them. All right, so what's the next one? All right, what is the law of nations? The law of nations are the conducts of how nations of the world interchange with each other. The context and rules and regulations of the interchange of nations, dealing with peace and war and neutrality. So that's the laws of nations. What is the international community of nations? The international community of nations is a host of nations that have come together and signing a convention, right? Even going further back to the League of Nations, before the League of Nations, because you have, once again, you have old states and new states. As I said before, since the 1920s, there's been over 150 new states. So the Moroccan Empire is part of the Community of Nations. What do you mean by that, Abdullah? They're not members of the United Nations. Well, how can you say the Moroccan Empire is part of the International Community of Nations? All right. In 1952, the case between France and the United States in the International Court of Justice, there was 3 types of treaties that were used to adjudicate that case. The primary treaty between Morocco and 10 European powers between 1631 to 1892. The second type of treaties was the Act of Algiers of 1906 and the Act to Protect Morocco of 1880. The third type of treaty was the Fez Treaty of 1912. So look at 1631, 1892. France stood on Moorish treaties to make her most equal nation claim. So 1631 is before the League of Nations. 1631 is before the United Nations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. An old state. So, you have these interchange, the 1533 treaty between France and Morocco. Because remember, they're 1631. You got the 1533 treaty on the King Francis I, who knocked on our door. He knocked on our door to engage in a trade and protection treaty so that France can expand her commerce, because that Moorish treaty protected France from the molestation from Morocco. So that's 1533. I just presented documentary evidence that Morocco, at this time that I speak, is part of the International Community of Nations. Morocco is already recognized as I speak now. What is the problem right now? She is in the hospital. She's in a hospital, and she's been in a coma for 20 years. We, her children, we are children. The purpose of the Restoration Caucus is to take the defibrillators, and shot our mother. Out of a coma. I'm drawing that analogy. That is what we're doing politically. I got to give you something that you can relate to. Defibrillators, a coma, 200 years.
Well, you made a statement. You made a statement. You made a very clear distinction. And I read it earlier, and I'm not sure if everyone caught it. You mentioned about, the misconception when someone say, oh, the United Nations, the Moorish Empire is not a part of the Moorish nation. Well, there's treaties that goes back thousands of years, which means over 5,000 years, which means there are nations and nations warred against nations for over 9,000 years before even the United Nations were even formed. So you can't form an assembly, a federation of nations, and that does not stand on existing treaties. That will be outside of jurisprudence, which is positive law, and which is what as I read earlier, which is what the Khazarians stood on. Now let me read that again. The king of Khazarians traced his lineage not through Shem, but through Jehoshaphat, the son of Noah. Now, in doing so, a letter is written from King Joseph of the Khazars, in which he detailed his people's lineage, which he found in the family registry of our fathers. Joseph asserts boldly that Togarmah, the son of Josaphat, the Gentiles, had 10 sons and provided the names of their offsprings. Now, this is an official document from the now deceased Khazar nation, stating to the world that we are not from Shem, but we were converted to Judaism as the son of Josaphat. Now, what did they take to the United Nations to prove this? Nothing. They just stood on their word. So we, as people who has been misclassified as Black, Negro, Colors, Indian, Jamaican, all the likes of the different constructs named to put us in a political construct outside of your nativity, outside of your heritage, because you fail to stand on what your ancestors are. That's why we continue to be in the position that we are today. And for the ones who, I love my Bible people, I do. But what I want our Bible people to understand is that book is your covenant of understanding. It's all of our books of covenant of understanding. And because it tells us, and we looked up Deuteronomy, it tells you Deuteronomy is the law of not having. It tells you in Deuteronomy why that you are in the position that you're in, and it tells you that you're in the position that you're in. Let me just get to that, because I think it's very important for everyone to know why we're in the position that we are in to this day. Now it tells you, let me just get to that, because I think it's very important for me to read that, and I had it highlighted because when I saw it, I almost fell out of bed. So 1 second, just bear with me, just one moment. I am going to find it. I'm definitely going to find it. Yeah. Come on. Things will get lost when you need it, but that's all right. I should have had it ready. Ha ha ha. I just want to make sure I give you the right one, because I don't want anyone to say the Tamara gave me the wrong one. So just bear with me, you guys. Sorry for the little brief interruption. Just bear with me. I was definitely want to give you this, because I was reading it earlier, and when it jumped out, it speaks about your heritage, your lineage. No, say yeah. All right. I can't find it at the moment, but I will find it before the evening, and I will get it over to each and every one. But it talks about in Deuteronomy um, how, and I'm just going to paraphrase until I find it in this book because I was reading all day and all yesterday. So it talks about how when you do not follow the ways, I'm going to paraphrase until I find the exact words. When you do not follow the ways of, here it is, Deuteronomy 28:16, curses the field and curse in the city. So basically it talks about when you do not follow the ways of your ancient ancestors, you will be cursing another nation because that is not of your lineage. You're taking upon things that are not was not prescribed for your inheritance. So you are outside of the kinship. So as we get into the international community of nations, it will help you understand more why it's more important for us to understood these national, international principles of nativity lineage in order for us to rise back up to become in the kinship of family, to be able to restore back that in which our inheritance is set up for us. So, all right, Abdullah and Shem, we're gonna have here number 3. What is the international community of nations?
Yeah, that was answered already.
Are you dead?
Yes.
All right. All right. Okay. Well, we're gonna rock on there.
hmm
Who are the Moors? What are the Blackamoors? And is black a nationality?
All right. Let me answer more. Uh, more are the people who are currently under European conquest and subjugation, and have been under Spanish, Spain, Portugal, France, the Netherlands, England, and Great Britain subjugation. In 1563, King Philip II of Spain issued a Spanish bulla classifying the Moors, putting Moors under Spanish subjugation, and classified the Moors as Spaniards. To this very day, I mentioned earlier that Moors who claim to be Dominicans and Cubans and Nicaraguans and Costa Ricans and Colombians are still under Spanish rule. They have not claimed their Moorish nationality. So they're also Moors.
Yes.
You also Moors who are classified as Indians, Black, Negro, Colored, Latino, Puerto Rican. So Moors are the people who are currently once again under Spaniards, French, Dutch, Portuguese conquest, who by national origin, consanguinity, and descent belong to the Moroccan Empire. That's who the Moors are. So, as I mentioned earlier, our mother is in a coma. So, in order to be protected by her, we have to bring her back out. We have to wake her out of a coma. Right. Question 5. Who are the Blackamoors? The same people. Black has been added to Moor to create a compound word. Black, adjective, Moor, a proper noun, placed together, forming a compound word. This goes back even to the 1300s in various languages, Black or Moor. But the people are not Blackamoors, the people are Moors. So this is an attempt to strip the people of their inheritance by adding Black to Moor. So it's the same people, and it's very important that we put Blackamoor there, so that and you'll see in the 1599 Geneva Bible, Blackamore, Jeremiah. You'll see Blackamore in the 1599 Geneva Bible. Black space, black is lowercase, is a space, more is capitalized. Yes. Black's lowercase, more is capitalized. It's black. Question number 6 is black nationality. All right, let's look at that. Is black a nationality?
Could you go into the phonetics of the spelling so there would not be any type of ambiguity with the spelling of BLACK? Because you have a lot of scholars who will take the spelling of BLACK. And I mean, even in what I'm reading now, and because have spent about 3-4 years now studying etymology, and understanding the science and nature of the words, thanks to Abdullah El Talib Mozabay, it opens your eyes to see that you can't take a word that has taken on a branch, which means it comes from a root, and you try to take the word that's from the branch of a particular time period, let's say modern English of 1500, and you don't trace that word back to the root to verify that it does not have the same meaning or the same spelling during a time period on the dispensation of antiquity. So when you see scholars write Egypt means black, Kemet means black, that's where you see the disconnect in understanding language, because BLACK in its form is not a word of antiquity. It was not even used in antiquity. So you can't apply a modern English word and then try to drag it all the way back to 300, 800, 900, it'll 10, even 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 13. It did not come into existence until the mid 1600, which is like 1500s and things of that nature. So when you see the word and someone try to take it back, that's an error right there in this cultural anthropology, languages of words.
Yeah,
so could you get into that?
Well, you did a good job in explaining that. Absolutely. When I we can now you gave the linguistic aspect of it. All right. So let's look at the historical, the political.
Yes.
Look, is there any documentary evidence? Because you dealt with the linguistic, which is you did a good job. Is there any documentary evidence of a nation ever existing? Treaties. Black, like you have the treaty between France and England, the treaty between France and Morocco, the treaty between Germany and China. Are there any treaties between black and France, black and Germany, black and Mesopotamia, black and Canaanite, black and Egypt? Are there any correspondence, of the ambassador of the black nation writes to Egypt, the king of Egypt, the ambassador of the black nation, writes to the queen of England, or the king of France wrote to the king of black nation? Are there any documentary evidence, treaties, diplomatic correspondence between heads of states, consul generals writing ambassadors? All right. So looking at now the historical documentary evidence of a nation called black ever existing.
No.
I just want to give the people, see, we got to give the people, we have to arm them. We have to arm them with epistemological thinking, critical thinking, and analysis, so that when they're challenged, they can intellectually give an intellectual response.
Now we have this political, yes, and you have this political wordplay that goes on every day in the U.S. political jurisdiction and people who are in positions of Senate, Congress members, and they play these political games with words, and then they look like you and I. And our people are a little confused because they have this argument about reparations. Well, reparations deal with a nation. A nation can only be repaired based off being molested by genocide, destruction of that nation. Now, yes, have the nation of the autochthonous people, are we under genocide, apartheid, and things of that nature? Yes, we are, because all of our resources are being hypothecated. But as a nation of people, are we able to claim reparation under a racial construct of Black, Negro, colored, African American? No, because that's not a nation. So they will continue to play these political word games with the masses of the people. And then you would think that they are for us because you have these people that are in that jurisdiction. But when in all essence, you have to look at it and have to question it in its totality. Are they truly the gatekeepers of our oppression and liberation? Because they have not blew the whistle on what nation are you going to repair? Because that Black is not a nation. It's not a nation of antiquity. It's not a nation that was ever in the annals of the earth. So the people whose terror land is on a political occupation, these arguments never come up. So that's what we have to get down to the root of that. And so as you get down to the root of that, it brings forward now get nationalized. Get nationalized. What does this mean? What does this truly mean in international law and international community of nations? Now, the political process done under the sovereign authority of a Moorish government so as to bring the subjugated Moors and the United States jurisdiction back under protection of sovereignty of the Moroccan Empire in the Moroccan Moorish flag. Now, someone say, well, I'm not a Moor. Why would I go up under the Moorish Moroccan flag? Well, does that mean I have to be Islamic in order to go up under the Moorish Moroccan flag? What does that mean? Let's get into that, because I know people have all these. Well, do I have to go to this body politic in order to claim my Moorish heritage and lineage? What is the process? What's this? What's that? Let's get into get nationalized. What does that mean when someone say, I need to get nationalized?
All right. You've heard this from those who know their Moors. You've heard get nationalized. You've heard those conscious Moors push get nationalized. I've heard this for 28 years. And they will waive paperwork. Like I got my paperwork, and then they'll make the claim that they are nationalized. Now, international law. What does that mean? In international law, get nationalized. Paperwork. Tamara, about 30 minutes ago, Tamara mentioned about protection. About the political, that the consanguinity aspect of nationality has been taught and pushed, but what's been the political understanding of nationality, and it's in protection. So we're looking at yes, our people belong to the Moroccan Empire by national origin, consanguinity, and descent. However, our mother is in the hospital in a coma. When you're talking in international law, it's the aspect of protection. So in order to restore the protection to the people, we have to revive the Moroccan Empire. We have to bring her out of the extinguished state. She has been extinguished. In international law, it's called extinguished. So the process in international law of restoring protection to a people who's been subjugated and whose nation has been extinguished. That's called the recovery of lost sovereignty. So there cannot be any protection. We have to associate, and this is what Tamara mentioned, get nationalized with the restoration of the Moorish government and the protection. It has to be addressed in that context.
Absolutely.
If it's addressed outside of that, it's distorted. If you're not talking about the restoring of and the Shimmer go and piggyback on me, the restoration, the recovery of the Moorish sovereignty, Moorish government, which the Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus for 3 years has working to be facilitating, then you're not talking get nationalized. There's no way in the world, in the context of international law and the laws of the nation, that you can be talking get nationalized. You can say all the words, say it all you want, and reality, in fact, you're not talking get nationalized.
Legitimately, being a Moor is a nature of your mother, of the earth, water, and blood, which is formed in the mother's womb. And from that concept, you are Moor. It's a nature. Now, there's a de facto misunderstanding in that faulty life that when one takes a political allegiance to a government that's not his own, that he's a Moor to the political allegiance. That's not true. Moor is a natural thing of nature. Now, to a Moorish nation, he's not only protected his constitution and not giving away birthright, he's also attached to the cultural identity of the ancient people. I can go to Russia and say, I want to be a Russian citizen. Then when I become a Russian, they do something to violate my rights, and I go to the academic more. But your cultural, your political allegiance is not attached to your cultural identity, which is a Moor, consequently. So you bring in a consequentity claim in a Russian court. That's not going to work. You have to bring a consequentity claim in a Moorish court. That's where your protector is at. And then the treaty that your Moorish nation entered into, or your foremothers and forefathers entered into, that treaty had to be enforced by the protectors of Moorish government. That's why it is very important to claim your nationality attached to a Moorish government. You're protected under alienation, under treaties, and your government become your protection.
Let me just say this. I know there are a lot of individual processes out there, and everyone has the right to self-determination. Everyone. Now, and that's what we're seeing today, even with the Ukraine conflict. They're saying, Russia's saying, hey, you're our people. You want to go back, you want to go back to the Slavic Europeans who once overthrew and slaughtered our people back in November 13th, 2002. But let's keep in mind, they only want to be friends with you for the resources and what they can get out of you. So this I'm just paraphrasing, playing around with Putin is saying. So they're saying, no, we're gonna join allies, with the, with the ones that, did this to our ancestors. We're gonna become their friends and not be a foe to them. And we're gonna let them allow them to enjoy the spoils of the lands and resources. And we're gonna cut you off, Putin. Well, I know you're my brother, but I don't want to be your brother keeper because you probably was a bad brother at one point in time. So that's the conflict that has going on, right? So everyone has a right to self-determination. So in saying so, there's a lot of processes, a Moorish process of one to identify who they are. You can create an affidavit of truth, You can have that authenticated, and you can have that authenticated, and you can have your affidavit of truth to your Moorish lineage. But however, a lot of you have to keep in mind that is individually. We're talking about on a national level, an international level, not an individual just only worried about themselves. Now I will say this, because everyone is not activated at the same time in reference to their knowledge of national origin and understanding and descent. And I will say this, it's important for when one know and understand these principles to get strong enough to be able to bring in your fellow brothers and sisters. So yes, one has to be strong and understand and be able to stand in knowledge, on knowledge, in order to be able to bring in their fellow brothers and sisters, as well as for to protect them. But in order to protect the ones who don't know or do not have the capacity of understanding to know that they're in a state of colonization and usurpation of their birthrights and inheritance, it's important to understand the need, the desire to have a reversion of sovereignty in the international community. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the individual processes of being able to self-determine, because everyone have a right to self-determination. We're talking about the international ability to come together in unity for the restoration. Abdullah, you want to add to that?
Yes, let me add to that. Yes, then I want to go back to what we said about the individual process. The individual process is the question. We're going to look to international law, because that has to be focused. We have to raise the people to understanding of international law. Is that if any individual process that anyone does, are they being protected under what sovereignty? Is that person or persons being protected? You say nationalized. What that means, that's a political process done by a Moorish government, and that you're being protected by that Moorish government, not by the United States. We're not talking about protection by foreign power. You're talking about being nationalized. Let's go to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. There's no article in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship that gives the United States power to nationalize Moors. Now, so if you talk about an individual process, does this individual process will bring me back under the sovereignty of the Moroccan Empire and the Moorish flag? That needs to be asked. Every one of us anyone who's listening to me, please ask that question. Is what I'm doing, does it bring me back under the sovereign protection of the Moroccan Empire and the Moorish flag? In truth, in the true concept, true meaning, absolute principle of international law? Or this is a fiction, and I'm just saying it, hoping, wishing, praying. Under what sovereignty are you being protected? If you say, oh, Morocco, no problem. That means that's reversion to sovereignty. That means that, that's being the recovery of lost Moorish sovereignty. That means that there's a full Moorish government. All right. So Shem, go into that, please.
Yes.
They say that I'm going to clear what you're going to. The claim is that I'm protected under the Moorish government. What does that look like in international law and in the community of Nations, protection of the Moorish sovereignty and Moorish flag. Nationalized means I'm being protected under Moorish sovereignty and the Moorish flag. What explain that meaning and what it looks like in the construct of international law?
Well, you have a government body, you have a political body, you have a substance there. You have a what you call representation that is put in place that when whenever, like even in your homeland, whenever you have a dispute among each other, there's a judge, and that's a public official. That's a structure. Like a structure. That's the reason why you have that, as to be protected in your. You have what you call the legislators, which is part of the past, the legal ethics. I mean, they are the conscience of the communities, the society. So by being the conscience, they pass the laws, bills, statutes, and orders, and that get passed by the competence of the people. And they go back to the ancient culture.
Say Moors. Say Moors. Don't say good. Say Moors. Moors. Moorish people. Say Moors. Moorish legislation.
Then you have the head of state normally would be a prime minister
elected by Moors,
or president of the prime minister. Also, the prime minister answers to the king or the emperor. And this is a foundation principle. You just go all the way back to ancient Egypt.
Let me stop you here, Shannon. Let me stop here again. What I'm looking for is specific. Let me say it again. The claim is I'm nationalized. Right. That's why I want you to be specific.
Now,
I am nationalized.
Here's the question. Here's the question in context. I'm nationalized. What does this mean in international law and international community of nations? Now, I don't know if you was talking about. We was talking about self-determination. Everyone has a right to self-determination. Now, I said on an individual basis, and then you have Moorish political provincial body politics that has formed and create the body politics to be able to create the mode of identifying those who
be specific.
Those who identify as their Moorish lineage, those who come in identify their Moorish lineage. Okay. So, however, you have I can't hear when y'all talking. You have we're talking about on the individual level. We're talking about on the level of Moorish provincial body politics, who have assembled for the protection of the people who are identifying with their Moorish lineage. And then we're talking about on a international level, when the various Moorish provincial body politics confederate into one central governing body in order to restore the Moorish imperial divan government. So we're talking about three different aspects. Now, see, we're unique in this situation here. We're unique because there was never a process of nationalization based off the Moors had to go through a naturalization process through the U.S. political jurisdiction. So what we are doing in our nationalization process is the affidavit identification to say we have a heritage, a culture that is separate from the Slavics who are colonized our territory. So go into the three aspects of individual, Moorish political bodies, and international community of nations.
So let me be specific. Okay. I knew the whole question. Okay, individually is when a Moor become conscious within himself, that what consequence is, and that they're more being a Moor is an inherent right. That's individual. That works de facto, that works de jure. De facto means when you make that claim, but you are willing to be part of a Moorish government, and you rather give your political allegiance to a foreign government. Now, when you give your political allegiance to a foreign government, they're not attached to your cultural identity. Therefore, they go into their courtrooms individually and try to force the treaty is a violation of international law, because no one individually claiming to be a Moor is an ambassador, is a wazir, a caliph, meaning a governor, prime minister, president, or sultan. See, you have to understand these are public officials. An individual Moor is just one individual making a claim to inherit right, which is consanguinity. They say, I don't need no one. This becomes de facto. I don't need no one. I'll do it myself. Then you have to go back to principle. Where's it settled in principle that one Moor, man or woman, Moorish government, or operates outside an ambassador or consul? Now that's de facto. Let me address de jure. De jure is when a Moor become conscious, a host of Moors, community. It could be 10,000, 5,000, 250, 100, or 50 Moors become conscious intellectually that they are Moors consanguinity. They wanted to band together a political body. Now, when they band together for a political body, the vested right is in them because they didn't have the right. One money and something come together and form a social trust, which is a constitution. And that constitution, they get invested, and they give delegation authority to certain men and women to carry out government functions of the government. Therefore, that government body becomes their protector. Therefore, they fall of the principles of international law and the principle of culture law. Now they're able to send the ambassador up to other through diplomatic relationship and communication to enter the commerce, economics, and also they also afford a consul is appointed. He's the international judicial officer that a treaty of her, a woman, that would delegate to him the exclusive authority in making judicial determination for civil and criminal matters of more that native more. So that's de jure. If you're not operating this way, then you're operating de facto. And I've seen it happen. Let me give an example.
Please do.
More say, hey, they don't respect that. I go in the United States courts, they want to hear that SSS or what they say. Now, I don't blame them. They don't have jurisdiction to speak. They can't speak. They preclude from speaking. You could not blame them. They don't have jurisdiction. That's liability. They can take their bond away and they lose their judgeship and their pension. So how you going to go before somebody and give the officer of a foreign government power to speak on a more dispute when the treaty prohibits such practice and principle?
You going it, y'all?
Well, let's analyze.
You have to go, Cameron.
Let's analyze that, because let's look at here. Let's critically analyze the Dred Scott case. Now, what does it mean of United States Supreme Court Justice Daniel's statement in the Dred Scott versus Stanford case of 1857, and in quotes, that the African Negro race never have acknowledged as belonging to the family of nations, that as amongst them there never has been or recognized by the inhabitants of other countries anything partaking of the character of nationality or civil or political polity, that this race has been by all the nations of Europe regarded as subjects of capture or purpose. Let's analyze that. I'm sorry, let me unmute your mic. Let me unmute your mic. Go ahead.
All right, yes. Now, here we have the term African Negro. That is not a pedigree, consanguinity, ancestry, descent, national origin of anyone that ever existed on this planet. Now, let's substitute Negro, African Negro with more. Then that statement will be false.
That's right.
If we take African Negro out and then put more there, then what Justice Daniels would not apply. That wouldn't apply. Let's put here that the Moor never have acknowledged as belonging to the family of nations, that as among them there never has been known or recognized by the inhabitants of other countries anything partaking of the character and nationality. That's false. If he had put more there.
That's right. That's right.
All right. But because it's African Negro, then that's correct. That's not a racist statement. That's not a racist statement. That is a fact that if he, all right, if Justice Daniel wrote this, that the African Negro race have acknowledged as belonging to the family nations, that as among them there has been known or recognized by the inhabitants of the countries anything partaking, then that's false.
That's right.
Justice Daniel can't write that. He could have written that. He couldn't have written that in the positive because African, that's not a people. Now, because our people think that African Negro is a consanguinity, ancestry, lineage, descent, pedigree, nationality, they will see Justice Daniel as a racist. And don't want black people knowledge, want to keep black people as slaves, that so that's why we have to rise with knowledge. That apartheid and indoctrination perpetuates they are being oppressed and conquered. So what I decided to do was, that's what if it read this, what would that mean? If it read more, what would it mean?
Birthright.
Then that's right.
It's called birthright.
So definitely more is belonging to the family nation.
Yes. Okay. Now let's look at Dred Scott. Dred Scott made a claim in grammar. We're dealing with etymology, grammar.
And like it in the Constitution of Laws of Nations.
Yeah, Laws of Nations. Let's deal with individuals. In order for this claim to be in front of the United States Supreme Court, Dred Scott definitely didn't have no knowledge of being a Moor. That's because let's do the fundamental principles of dealing with law, culture. Dred Scott and language claimed to be cited dead to the law. This is why the Supreme Court was able to. The Supreme Court was able to rule with jurisdiction based on the statement in grammar that Dred Scott wrote in his complaint of himself. Dred Scott didn't make a consanguinity claim. Dred Scott made a political allegiance, or he made a claim to be in servitude. Therefore, being in servitude, he didn't have a right to bring that claim because that status that he was in, he didn't have no government. There's no protector. There's an individual bringing a claim. Well, if an Esquire brought the claim, he misrepresented him and made him into a fiction character that didn't have no right. He's dead to the law. Read this statement. Read it again, Abdullah. Read the statement. What it's saying.
Tamara.
Read it again, Tamara. Second statement.
All right. That the African Negro race never have acknowledged as belonging to the family of nations, that as amongst them there never has been known or recognized by the inhabitants of other countries anything partaking of the character of nationality or civil or political polity, that this race has been by all the nations of Europe regarded as subjects of capture or purpose.
Dead to the law. Dred Scott, when he make a statement that not it say a knowledge of being to the family of nations, that among them there never have been on a recognized by the inhabitant, you're dead. You know what that means? That means you're not even of a country. You don't even have a mother.
That's what it means. That's what.
That means he's like a stillbirth. He never made it to life.
Okay, pause. And international law, we're going to stay here. We're going to stay right here because we're going to have to set. So we may not set all the captives free tonight mentally. We were touched some.
Oh my God.
But what the goal tonight is to critically analyze your status, your position. Now, keep in mind, in the education system, the colonizers never, never, never made a claim that this is their land.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
They
That's
never
true.
made a claim that this is their land. In your books, they say
1744.
we traveled.
Yep.
We traveled to this landmass, Newfoundland. It was inhabited, which means people already was here. Commerce, raising their children, agriculture, mercantile, heritage. I'm not going to say civilization because that would mean that we were uncivil. We had a culture. We had a constitutional way of doing things. There's a well-settled constitution of which, the governors came over and they sat with the different chiefs of the different tribes, and they sat and learned the ways of governance. And they utilized this governance as of today to form their society, their political government. We actually pushed them. And if you go back and read the 1754, the convention in which they came together in the king, and I want to say that not the Lancaster, but the 1754, when they were brought forth, the crown sent down the governance, a political body, to oversee the plan to confederate. And when they proposed the plan, because Benjamin Franklin had an advertisement, "Unite or Die." They wanted all the colonial occupiers to come together under one umbrella. So they had an advertisement where they say to join or die. So they had a meeting in 1754 to go over the plan of unity. So the crown did not accept the plan. So once again, now you have to look at the status. So as of today, when you look at the status of what were their status when they got here, their status still remain as of today. Your status will not change because of you in a position of colonization. Your status remain the same. It's just that we have forgotten who we are because of the system, the educational system of stripping our cultural heritage and governance away from us. Now, this happens a lot this happened a lot in the Mexam, but it didn't happen so much. It didn't happen a lot in areas such as Africa. Well, we call it Africa. I just hate to use that word. Well, I'm going to use it anyway. In Africa, where they have the different colonization, a lot of them were able to still exercise the ancient cultural practice, whereas in this geographical region, northwest of Mexam, the heritage was totally stripped of the people. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the understanding. Before we go further, we're going to pay our sponsors a little respect here and thank them for their support. So we're going to do that.
Are you a deep diver for knowledge? Do you like to explore historical content of language, grammar, and law? Well, Academy of Providence is a unique certificate-based virtual learning institution with an aim to draw out a person's innate talents and abilities by imparting the knowledge of languages, epistemology, scientific reasoning, jurisprudence, positive law, history, literature, rhetoric, and more. The channels through which those abilities would flourish and serve the communities as well as the nation. Our goal is to help you dive deep into critically analysis, thinking and reasoning of these areas towards becoming philosophers or humanity of learning or humanity of science, which creates society's great artists, painters, musicians, jurists, doctors, astronomers, biologists, engineers, cartographers, surveyors, photographers, chemists, herbalists, entrepreneurs, computer scientists, teachers, politicians, and statesmen. So, if you are determined and willing to go beyond, Academy of Providence is the perfect place for you. For more information, visit our website, www.academyofprovidence.org.
All right, we're back. Thank you very much. Again, we have our educational arm, which you saw, academyofprovidence.org, and we'll provide you more information about that. But as we continue throughout the lecture, now we're going to get into some more information to critically analyze here. Let's get into this question. What is the remedy to bring the Moors back to the law of nations and the international community of nations? What is political legitimacy? And what is the Montevideo Convention and the acts and duties of states? Actually, could you start with 13 first? And then, yes, let's start with 13. What is the Montevideo Convention and the acts and duties of states? And then go to 12 and then 11. All right, you have the floor. So you have to unmute your mic. I'm going to need you to unmute your mic. There you go. One moment. Allow me to unmute your mic.
Okay.
All right. Let's start with 13 first. What is the Montevideo Convention and the acts and duties of states? Then let's go into what is political legitimacy. And then let's question 11. What is the remedy to bring the Moors back to the laws of nation and the international community of nations?
Can
Can you hear me?
Give me some moment.
There you
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, and the executed that's the convention.
No, that's the acting to this state Montevideo Convention.
Okay. That convention was put together among new states that wanted to come together and be recognized in old territory, old nations territory. They said that they had a right to be recognized under their own political allegiance, but not tied to their cultural identity. And that convention allowed them to come together and form acts and duties to be like the criteria what it would take to be a new state to be recognized by the old states in the international community. Okay, Abdullah.
Yeah, go ahead. That's right. You still doing it.
That is a modern principle that they are using to allow to break up nations, like Pakistan. Pakistan, I believe, is like 10 republics, but it still got Pakistan on the map. I mean, in order for not to go to a civil war, they will draw political boundaries, domains, where they will operate, exercise civics, political bodies, and they will honor each other political map and boundaries. In order not to bring the nation to a civil war, they would say they have a right to self-determine. Now, that principle is not settled really on old principles of law, because if you allow people to break away from the foundation principle that brought them together, to let one tribe break away and destroy the foundation, that's not principle. That's not founded on principle. The new principle, a modern principle of international law, is de facto. Because they take nationality and say one have a right to change nationality. That's grammar. That's de facto. That's constructed language. See, they structured international policy to nations now, people, to self-determine in their own, even though they're all the same people. So they say, in order for y'all not to go to war and to keep peace, why don't y'all just draw up a map, separate flag, and just say you living in the territory that nation, but claim to be a separate republic in that nation. So there will be no war. Go ahead, Abdul, add to that.
Tamara, bring the Russian situation in. What Shim is saying.
Ukraine.
Yes.
Let me just say, I'm glad you brought that. Thank you,
One of the
Ukraine became a modern state by the fall and delusion of the Soviet Union.
In 1991, yes.
In 1991. A lot of territories that was brought under the Soviet, in other words, Russia had a royal family that was assassinated. The family of Russia was assassinated. Therefore, a dictator took over and made what you call all the nations in that area to come into one union, the Soviet Union. Well, these territorial domain people say we have a right to be our own state. Because the Soviet Union fall, we never paused. And that's true, because a lot of these that Ukraine, they call them Ukraine now, but they was never part of the original Russian family. There was not the legend, because you had a Russian family. They had an emperor. There was a Russian emperor. The family assassinated by the Soviet power.
No, go ahead.
What happened?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, there was a Russian family in Russia. The family was assassinated. The family operating the monarchy on. So when the Soviet took over that, they also took over and conquered other territorial nations and brought them under the Soviet Union. That's why you had the Soviet Union. Even part of Germany was part of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet fell, Germany remained back all the territorial sovereignty of the ancient, was already before being taken over by the Soviet Union. Now, some of these new states that evolved, they're only saying that, listen, we already had the right. A pre-existing before the Soviets took over, this right was already ours. It's not new. And that's true. That's not a new state. That means exercising a principle doctrine that already was existing before the Soviets took over and killed the Russian family. That means you came here and forced us under the Union. We couldn't win. We came under conquest and we came under war strategy. We became prisoners of war. That means the people, the Soviet ruled the iron fist. When that Soviet fell, they went back to what you call resort back to the sovereignty of what they was before they was conquered. That's not a new state. A new state is when a conqueror takes over something and people no longer say, we don't want to be part of that. We want to have our own self-determination. Well, that's new. They're not claiming to already claim a sovereignty that already existed. They're claiming to recognize themselves as what? Political organization.
Colombia, El Salvador, yes. Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Cuba, Mexico, Jamaica. All right, that's those examples of new states that we talking about. They are Moors. They then rise as they rose as new states and never claimed their Moorish consanguinity.
Yes, absolutely. Because you have to understand what the Russian family conquered, what the Soviet took from the Russian family and took from the other nations. What do you mean, Shem? Before the Soviet Union was formed, before the Russian monarchy took over, these people already had a pre-existing sovereignty, meaning possession over their states.
You repeating yourself?
You didn't even add that question?
No.
Anything you would add, Tamara?
No, you're right. Step in line. We're understanding that because, and it is funny you say that because as I'm listening to you give the principles of what occurs after conquest. Now, somehow our people do not have the understanding that the war is over. The war is over between the Moors. The war was over years ago. So now they were able to erect their political jurisdiction. Now, the Moors should have taken the same step and restore the political jurisdiction of the Moorish Empire. That should have occurred, and it didn't. So, therefore, you have the colonizers who said, hey, since you don't have your political governance and affairs in order, we're just going to continue to occupy the land. But for some particular reason, our people do not understand or even see that we have the ability to restore ourselves back to the pre-existing condition we were in before conquest, which means that we were not under the governance of the colonizers. We were not under the statute codes and under orders of the colonizers. We are to be restored back to where we were pre. It's called, it happens, and even in insurance, when someone, let's just say an automobile accident, if you're in an automobile, if someone wrecked your car and they totaled your car, now the insurance company has what you call a fiduciary responsibility to restore the injured party back to the status they were in before they was before they was injured. That's called mitigation of damages. So they have a right to mitigate and place them back into the position they were in before the accident occurred. So which means that the Moors there's a responsibility for the Moors to be restored back into the condition that they were after the war is over. So that means the restoration of your land, restoration of your monetary system, restoration of your natural resources, restoration of your education, restoration of your culture, restoration of your religion, whichever you deem fit. And there was not just one religion that was exercised. And when I say religion, I'm talking about understanding of astronomy, cosmology. We honor many divine practices. So even the restoration of, like I said, the various religions. So you have a right to be restored back to the precondition of what you were after the battle is over. You're not, we're not to be under these this political construct of oppression 2, 3, 4, 500,000, 400 years later, 400 or 500 years later. We're not to still be up under this, but it's the mental aspect of it. And it's, it's the mental raping of it that has occurred and continue to occur. Even when you attempt to have these type of lectures and sincerely pour out and provide information to the people of who we are and who we should be, because we will never be a liberated people. And I know there comes a element of selfishness where one think that the more commercial paper that is acquired, that makes them of a better status, not realizing that's a monopoly ploy within itself. That's a game of monopoly being going on even in that, because the commercial paper is not of your ancient ancestors' ways of commerce, financial commerce. We're under the gold and silver, whereas the commercial paper is a creation of another foreign jurisdiction ways of commerce. So you can never have your inheritance and riches in someone else's commercial affairs. So now I know Abdullah is preparing to get into what is the remedy to bring the Moors back to the law of nations and the international community of nations. Are you prepared for that?
Yeah, Tamara, that's a very good illustration to give them proof of the statement, quantify the statement that you got. Give them a taste of the New Haven gospel case. It says in the Supreme Court say about when the war's over, everybody rights to their rights entitled to land is restored. If you want, Abdullah can go into the gospel.
Yeah, that's Society versus New Haven, 1823.
Yes.
The Revolutionary War does not extinguish any pre-existing rights So regarding any rights claims to debt that's owed, because what happened was Virginia were making claims that.
You want me to read it?
Yes.
I got it.
Yeah,
okay.
yes.
I'm just gonna read it. I'm gonna read a small highlighted section of it. It's called Society versus New Haven, U.S. Supreme Court, U21 U.S. 8 section wheat 464-5 L period ED 662 of 1823. Now it's the Society for Propagating the Gospel of in Foreign Parts versus the town of New Haven and William Wheeler. Now, it reads that the proper courts in this country will interfere to prevent an abuse of trust confided to British corporation holding lands here to charitable use and will aid in enforcing the due execution of trusts, but neither those courts nor the local legislator where the lands lie can adjudge a forfeiture of the franchises of the foreign corporation or of its property. Now, second paragraph, the property of British corporations in this country is protected by the 6th article of the Treaty of Peace of 1783 in the same manner as those of natural persons, and their title, thus protected, is confirmed by the 9th article of the Treaty of 1794, so that it could not be forfeited by any intermediate legislative act or other proceeding for the defect of alienage. The termination of a treaty by war does not divest rights of property already vested under it, nor do treaties in general become extinguished in post facto by war between the two governments. Those stipulating for a permanent arrangement of territorial and other national rights are at most suspended during the war and revived at the peace unless they are waived by the parties or new and repugnant stipulations are made. So which means our people are waiving their right to restoration and get your inheritance back. I yield the floor on that one.
Thank you, Tamara. You well spoken that. Can't get no more plain quantified than that.
Right on.
Thank you. That's right.
Yeah, that was on that side right in.
Yeah, because what she was saying was possible, but she went back now to prove to the viewers that way they could get in the elementary way that, hey, wait a minute, even if foreign courts acknowledge this ancient principle, so how come we not getting it? It's waived because there's no government there. There's no protecting. Go ahead.
All right. Activate your nationality remedy. Reclaiming our pre-existing Moorish sovereignty is the divine and inherent right that to every Moorish child born of a Moorish mother, Moorish woman, for the benefit of enjoying liberties, freedom, prosperity, possession, and control of agriculture, minerals, water, and air. 1. The Moors coming together in their various provinces collectively as a community. 2. Create a political body in which the Moors get their political allegiance as a government. 3. Make claim to their Moorish consanguinity for their cultural identity. 4. Exercise their divine and inherent right to self-determination by drafting the Constitution and by voting in their government officials to exercise delegation of authority in their official office capacity. 5. Communicate with European nations, France, England, Great Britain, Spain, Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden, Sardinia, Belgium, that signed treaties with us, the Moroccan Empire, as diplomatic channels of international obligations and community are embodied in the Moorish treaties, as well as the covenants embodied in culture. 6. Ratify the international acts and conventions that have been signed by the nations of the world. This must be done by a qualified jurist who has been educated and especially trained in international law, culture, and principles of ancient and modern states and nations. 7. This is the foundation that the International Court, the International United Nations, the Organization of American States are looking to when admitting new states and re-admitting states and nations that already attached to a pre-existing sovereignty. Education, the Academy of Providence. The Academy of Providence, they are Tamara Ill and I are co-founders of the Academy of Providence. There are several courses offered by the Academy of Providence. We have Getting to the Roots 101, Getting to the Roots 201, Hooked on Grammar 101, Hooked on Grammar 201, Sojuris 101, Sojuris 201, Contract Law 101, Public Administration and International Law 201, and we have the Hooked on Grammar 301. Academy of Providence is a classroom-based learning institution designed to foster an education setting that promotes critical analysis, thinking, and reasoning that yields philosophy or humanity of learning or humanity of science, which shapes society's great artists, painters, musicians, jurists, doctors, astronomers, biologists, engineers, cartographers, surveyors, photographers, chemists, artists, entrepreneurs, computer scientists, teachers, politicians, and statesmen. Courses, grammar, and Montreal International Law. Register at academyofprovidence.org. Now we have the Moorish and Pure Restoration Caucus. The Moorish and Pure Restoration Caucus was established put together, 50 Moors came together in 2009, June 2009. And so let me look at that. So in June 2019, over 50 Moors assembled to form the Moorish and Pure Restoration Caucus to bring our people, now classified as Black, Negro, Colored, African American, Latino, Spanish, Indian, etc., back under the tree of divine, natural, and political law, positive law, so as to reconnect to the principles of ancient mothers and fathers as the founding civilized people who first inhabit and cultivated the earth. Also, our ancient mothers and fathers set among themselves a political, civic, and economic structure to contract one to another. The Moorish and Pure Restoration Caucus observed that addressing centuries of European colonization of Moorish land and the mass denationalization through modern constructive race paradigm as the cost of generations have brought about mass incarceration, crime, drug abuse, homelessness, poor housing conditions, poor health care, miseducation, and high illiteracy would be a daunting and never-ending endeavor if continue as a case-by-case basis. Through the study of treaties, treaty cases, international law, acts, agreements, covenants, conventions, constitutions, and court cases in the International Court of Justice, the Moorish and Pure Restoration Caucus learned that facilitating the formation of a national Moorish governing body among the various Moorish political body politics would be the most prudent approach to addressing centuries of European colonization of Moorish land and the mass denationalization through modern construct race paradigm. by assembling into a national governing body and forming a national constitution, we will reestablish our rights and duties of statehood as a returning state into the international community of nations. By reclaiming our pre-existing Moorish sovereignty through a national governing body, we'll position ourselves politically to reestablish diplomacy with the nations with which we negotiated treaties between 1610 and 1892. England / Great Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, United States, Netherlands, Denmark, Sardinia, and Belgium. We have the public administration education outreach. That's Moroccan Post. We meet every second Friday of the month from 7 to 9. That's we have the broadcast. We'll have the printed newspaper probably in the summer. The Moroccan Post printed newspaper. Further, the Moorish and Pure Restoration Caucus. The Moorish and Pure Restoration Caucus are Moorish houses of Moorish communities which pre-formed a national government by the name of the United Republic of Morocco. It is not yet ratified for a Moorish convention of representatives voting of the various Moorish states and respective provinces. The Imperial Parliament Council of the United Republic of Morocco. The Imperial Parliament Council of the United Republic of Morocco would be, if agreed upon by the various Moorish governments, the formation of one central national government made up of a host of Moorish body politics, restoring the national sovereignty of Morocco. This would constitute political legitimacy, which is an essential principle expressing the consent of our people in the formation of a legitimate government. The sovereignty is vested in the Moorish population in the various Moorish communities. The Treaty of Liberty, the Moorish politics among coming together, forming an alliance as a national government body in friendship and peace to protect each other and have international relations. There are 6 articles in the Treaty of Liberty. One referring to 3, which I will talk about. Restoring the matrilineal and matriarchal principles of our ancient ancestors for culture, philosophy, independence among the various Moorish communities of houses and government. We have the linguistics and etymology, restoring the original intent of words. We have a commerce and trade among each other. We have a letter of political legitimacy. Talk on that, Shem. Just give a brief letter of political legitimacy.
Yes, the letter of political legitimacy will go to the Treaty nations and whoever signed the act, the Act of Protect Morocco, the Act of Algiers.
Slow down.
That letter will go to notify them that we are legitimate based on our inherent right and the consanguinity, which is birthright. And we stand on the highest principle of our cultures, not anything else founded, but our culture first. So that political legitimacy lets the treaty nations know that we're not acting individual. We're not acting under de facto colorable political status as Black, Afro-American, they call it Mexican, Indian, Puerto Rican. We are Moorish nationals that is acknowledged, that's up in the archives of the World Court as the sovereign people of Morocco. That's it. That letter puts us in a legitimate standing of out of being de facto without a cultural identity to having a political allegiance attached to the cultural identity backed by a protector, which is a Moorish government. Yes. Go ahead.
All right. Executive order.
Executive order is an order coming to enforce the letter of the political legitimacy coming of the Moorish government.
Wait, go keep talking.
No, it's charged up of it.
Keep talking.
It's to enforce the letter of political legitimacy. Is to enforce the package which is the package that is the government package of international recognition as a all states and all nations come together in alliance to enforce the treaty as a protector of our people, to protect our moral consequency. So that the head of state will send out an executive order enforcing that right and letting the embassies know that we stand behind our people on the international under alienation and making a statehood claim.
All right. Government proclamation.
Okay, the proclamation means the government makes a proclamation to the foreign nations and to make it among the people. We are now officially under no dog tags or de facto name titles, but are operating under descent, kinsmanship, and heirship of an ancient people that lost their sovereignty through conquest, and it has been not weighed. It has been proclaimed by the people. So therefore, he's getting the people with an open proclamation, say, "Hey, this is who we are. This is our nationality, and this is our culture, and this is our political allegiance." And everybody can say, that's dealing with domestically and with internationally.
All right, you guys are breaking up bad. We're over the 2-hour mark, so we're gonna come back with this. We convene the second and fourth Sunday of each month. So contact, support, and subscribe. How can you contact, support, and subscribe? You can do that by Facebook.
That's good.
One second. Mute their mics because they're talking in the middle of me talking and I can't hear myself. So contact, subscribe, and support. How can you contact, subscribe, and support? Continue to hit the like button. We are a part of the network of Crom TV. I think what Crom is doing is a wonderful thing. He is not selfish. We have had a very nice, extensive conversation with Crom, and what he's doing is very remarkable because there's a lot of selfishness that goes on out here in the conscious community. And what he's doing is creating a network of various voices that are coming together to be able to get the message out in different areas, because sometimes people like to stay in the various little the cliques of different of platforms, and they don't go outside of that. So what I love the most about Crom TV, and he's opened the doorway of his network to allow platforms such as State of the Nationals that is being facilitated through members of the Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus to come and speak with the listening audience today, to be able to get an understanding and directive of what we're doing throughout the landmass, the area in which we live in. So you can contact, subscribe, and support by Facebook at United Republic of Morocco, Academy of Providence, Moroccan Post, Tamara L, Abdullah Bey. Our website for educational one. We have had Academy of Providence started March of 2020. So far we have had a total of, we're on the 8th class thus far. We have etymology 1 and 2. We have hooked on grammar 101, 201, and we're currently in hooked on grammar 301. We've had Sejuris 101 and 201. And we have Sejuris 301 coming up at the end of May. We have also had Contract Law 101 and 201. Now, and we'll have Contract Law. That class is convened in the fall session. The beautiful thing about our classes, all our classes are recorded. So if you want to go back and take the classes that we have already facilitated, they're on the website, as well as the course material that you can print out, create your binder, and you can go along. You can always go back. Now, the beautiful thing that we incorporated this class period in the Hooked on Grammar 301, we've incorporated quizzes that allow people to self-grade, assess themselves, and the understanding of the knowledge. And that's and the beautiful thing about academyofprovidence.org. It is your own online student portal. So you would create your own student portal, and then you will have the ability to go in and out of the classroom at your leisure, at your time, and at your pace. Now, you also can reach us via YouTube. Subscribe to our channels on YouTube at Moroccan Post News, United Republic of Morocco, as well as continue to like, share Crom TV. Now, please support. Now, I know I'm always on a lot of platforms listening to different ideologies and understanding, especially of our there's people who speak of true understanding and divine wisdom. And I support. Please support the work that we're doing here at State of the Nationals through Tamara DL. We're setting up things to where it can now go into a different construct. But right now, we have it set up under my name. I am the treasurer. I am the fiduciary treasurer who has responsibility of I am the voted in treasurer and secretary of the Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus. We have receipts, people. I know one thing we can show you is receipts. And we have a website. We're going to start opening up for more caucus members because we need your help. You can go to UnitedRepublicOfMorocco.com and you can put in your contact information, and we will reach out to you because we're opening up for more members to come in and help. We definitely need that help. And like I said, I definitely like to show receipts because I know a lot of time you don't see that receipt element when you're dealing with a different Moors. A lot of time people give, you don't know what a financing is derived from, and people will just continue to give and you don't see anything, and that's what happened. I mean, for me, I can't understand where some of the financing is going to, because no one ever shows you the work, and no one ever shows you the receipt. And that's why it's imperative for me to show you this, to show you that we keep copious notes and receipts of the work that we do. Here you see here, this is our financial end of the year financial reporting on the screen. As you can see, we log all our expenses that come in, our donations, our caucus dues, and Academy of Providence donates 30% of its proceeds to the Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus for the work we're doing and to help to facilitate the Moorish Imperial Divan. So as you can see, we keep receipts of everything that is billable out. Our supplies, our StreamYard, in which we have graphics, because we don't steal graphics off the internet. So we have our Shutterstock account, we have our telephone service, we have our rent and utilities that we have contracted out with House of Real. Not Elia Gilliam. We thank her for the support of being able to procure the facility. We did massive construction on the facility. We have our administrative building there, and as you can see, we keep copious notes of all the finances that come in and all the finances that are expensed out every month. And our fiscal year ended. We're still in the we're not in the red, so we ended the fiscal year on a great note. So that was a good thing there. So I like to show this receipts to show the importance of sharing and supporting, to the work that we're doing, because we're not just doing the work for ourselves. The work is being done for the people. So please donate to Cash App at Tamara DL. So just wanted to bring that information up. And so before we also end out, we're going to just give you some information on how you can keep in contact with us, as well how you can join us. And actually, I'm going to bring Brother Abdullah back, and he can speak about how you can also connect and find his books online at mooresandmasonry.org. I will bring him back on that before we close out. But you can also join us our Moroccan Post. We have a monthly digital news the second Friday of every month, starting at 7:30 p.m. And then we deal with yesterday's events, today's information for tomorrow's news. So you follow us on YouTube at Moroccan Post and Facebook at Moroccan Post News. Now, also, we have been procured to be on Crom TV, State of the Nationals, on Crom TV, the second and fourth Sundays each month from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So, we're going to continue up with activation of nationality on our next installation of Crom TV. But I would like Brother Abdullah to be able to share where you can find his books at mooresandmasonry.org. All right, Abdullah?
Yeah, yes, I have my book, How Her Moon, How Is the Moon Rule. We have etymology, vocabulary, something that you want. Etymology, vocabulary. Masonic compass is square and the connection and meditation timekeeping. Illuminati, illumination of the mind. The ancient musical scale, pineal gland, melanin, DNA, and cellular memory. And Moore's Masonry. And Moore's Masonry Part 2 will be coming your way soon. Moore's Masonry Part 2 will be coming your way soon. This is the back cover. All right. So you go to Moore's Masonry, the name of the book, mooresandmasonry.org. mooresandmasonry.org. Go to my website. And I said Moore's Masonry Part 2 will be coming your way soon. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
So once again, we'd like to thank you for another installation of State of the Nationals on Crom TV. We will reconvene on the second and fourth Sundays of each month from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you again for tuning in and have a wonderful evening.
Yes. We'll go to Marky.